lot of what I'm going to talk about right now comes from not only like my own personal experience, but like from what I observe and see from other people around me. Before I get into anything, I want to first kind of talk about or and define like what a relationship is, at least to me. I don't really understand the kind of the notion of casual dating. Like for me, I feel like a romantic relationship at least is more of like an investment in something that should generally be something long term, not short term. I feel like a lot of people try to have the best of both worlds in the sense that they try to get the benefits and perks of what a relationship gives and what not being a relationship gives. And but what I mean by that is when you're in a relationship, you have this person that you can always depend on, you can always talk to, and just having this person that's always around there for you, like 24/7 or however it may be. But when you're not in a relationship, you have, I guess, the freedom to kind of do whatever you want. And this is where people try to do this, casual dating thing where they're involved romantically with someone. So you have your partner that you're dating, but you would also try to talk to like other people and try to, kind of like behavior that's normative of being single, but also try to be involved with someone romantically. I feel like you're doing a disservice to yourself because you can't, that's really something you can't really have the both of. I think you should either, stick to a relationship that's long term or be in the stage where you're kind of just talking to people and just exploring your options. And when you feel like you found someone you want to have like in your life for like an extended period of time and have that person you can always rely on, then you would transition into, the long-term relationship. So for me, in my opinion, I believe you get into a relationship as an investment, expecting it to be sort of long-term, for lasting for an extended period of time, or who knows, and not going into it expecting it to kind of be just whatever, and just kind of not really giving it your all. And this transitions into, kind of tips that I'm going to be talking about right now. The biggest thing that I learned from my own experience is not being complacent. And by that, I mean, if you ever feel like you're really comfortable, almost to the point where you feel like invincible, that's like a really bad mindset to have. And it's actually pretty easy for you to fall into that kind of mindset because, at least for me, you have this person that treats you, with love, and they make you feel really good, almost kind of inflating your ego and confidence to a high level. So you almost think to yourself like, oh, like no matter what I do, like this person will never leave me, and you kind of feel more. You feel have this feeling of being invincible, and you kind of get complacent. You don't try as much, which isn't fair to the other person. And once you get that high up in this feeling of comfortability, it's really easy just to fall down. I like to think about it as it can take you a minute to climb a hill, but it'll take you a second to fall right down from it. A better mindset to have is, once you feel like you're at a point where, where everything is like really good, and you kind of feel like you're at the top, that doesn't mean you should just kind of slump down and kind of not work as hard. Think of it as, you're going to the gym and you've been going for like a pretty long time and you're like in really great shape and you're feeling really good about yourself. You don't just stop doing it, because if you stop, all that progress you made would have just been for nothing, because you would have just been regressing, when you should constantly keep progressing and constantly keep challenging yourself, and try to keep improving on the relationship and just being better, not only for yourself but for the other person, and keeping the relationship intact. So yeah, never be complacent and always try to look for ways, to be better as a person and to be better for the relationship in general. Second thing is also that I learned, and I don't think a lot of people would have the same problem, but I did, at least for in my situation, and it's the idea of letting the other person kind of spoil you. And you might think about it and think like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, I love being spoiled. Like you would love someone like getting you things because it's normal. But for me, like I never really felt comfortable with that. And the reason why for me it was like that is because my significant other at the time, she wasn't in the best financial situation. She went to school, she had a car, things to pay off for. She didn't have that much money, so it made me feel kind of uncomfortable whenever like she would want to spoil me, and she would ask me like, oh, I want to get you this and that, and I would always have the same kind of answer. I would be like, no, like it's okay, like you don't have to, like it's fine. And I thought at the time that I was doing a good thing. I thought like, oh, like I'm saving her money, this is good. I didn't think about it for me, I thought it was good for her. And what I realize now, and what I should have realized at the time, is that what that does, it takes away the opportunity for her to experience positive reinforcement. And by positive reinforcement, what that basically means is, I'm going to explain it in like a really simple way. So let's say you're not happy, a certain behavior happens, and now you're happy. And how this relates to my scenario, let's say for example, she is not happy at the moment. She buys me a present and now she feels happy. So the act of her, I guess, spoiling me is what makes her feel good about herself. And also what it does is it opens up the opportunity for her to receive praise from me. You know, for example, she gets me a present and I say something like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. Like, I love you, this and that." And that makes her feel good. And by not allowing the person to, have the opportunity to do that for you, it takes away the opportunities for her to experience, the praise. So I think that's just kind of me problem. I don't know if anybody else kind of experienced the same difficulty with that. I know I did. But yeah, always allow your partner to have opportunities to express themselves and to give them opportunities also to show you how much they care about you in different kinds of ways. Another thing is taking care of yourself. I'll probably do a more detailed video about this later on, but in the sense of relationship, what I mean by taking care of yourself is literally like portray yourself the way you would want your partner to portray themselves. And what I mean is that if you want your partner to, like look great and this and that, then it's only fair that you do the same. And if you're somebody who says to themselves, "Oh, I don't really care, what I look like and this and that," and trust me, I was the same way. I thought to myself, "Oh, I don't really care, like, I don't care what my hair looks like, I don't care what clothes I wear," and I was like that for like a pretty long time. That combined with the idea of feeling comfortable and invulnerable, it'll really make you feel stagnant, and your partner can see that. Depending on the kind of partner you have, he or she will either, kind of communicate that to you, or will not. So taking care of yourself is really important. Combined with the notion of you taking care of yourself comes communication. And I believe that communication is probably the most important foundation to establish in a relationship. But this is a mistake I made. I'd say like my communication is pretty good, and I felt like in my own previous relationship that the communication on the other end wasn't that great, and I was pretty vocal about it. But like I said, I also had my own shortcomings and things that I could have been better at. And in my mind, I thought to myself, like that's like my own problems and what I could have been better on should have been communicated to me by the other person. And I don't think that's the way you should go about it. Sure, for me the communication could have been better, but you shouldn't find ways to kind of put the blame on it, because that's what I was kind of doing. I was kind of putting the blame on her, thinking to myself like, "Oh, you should have told me this. You should have pointed out how I should have been better." Because in reality, you're just delegating responsibility for yourself to the other person when you should have sole responsibility for the way you behave. Again, you shouldn't have to rely on somebody else to kind of tell you what's going on and to kind of put you in place. You should be self-aware, and that's why it's important to have times to just sit back and reflect on what's going on at the time, evaluate the situation, think about what you're doing and how you can be better at that, so that you're never in a situation where you have to ask the other person like, "What am I doing wrong?" Your partner doesn't want to treat you like a child. This is a problem I had. Like they don't want to like baby you. They don't want to like take care of you in the way like a parent would. That's why you gotta really take care of yourself and be mindful of what you're actually doing and your behavior and how it affects your partner and even other people around you. Another thing I'm talking about is fear, and by fear what I mean is being afraid of the other person leaving you. And this is something that I've observed in other relationships where it can lead to clinginess and desperation. I feel like if you're in a relationship where you don't feel secure and you feel like the other person can leave at any moment, then that's something that you should kind of communicate to your partner about. And if it's something that you just can't kind of handle, can't get over, then I think the relationship is just not going to work out, because in the end they will leave you, but it's not for a reason that you may think. It will literally be for the reason because you think that they'll leave you, and it's something like, it's really annoying. Like, just imagine like dating someone and they're always like kind of hinting at the idea of you leaving them, kind of asking questions, and it just gets really annoying after a while. So of course they're gonna leave you if you just keep having such like low self-esteem and insecurity about just being in a relationship with the person in general. So always feel secure in the relationship, and you should have a foundation of trust with the person. Like I said, I believe relationships is a long-term investment. So if you don't feel comfortable in the sense that you feel secure with the person, you can trust them, then really it's not going to get any better as time goes on. Another tip I would say is to pay attention. And by that I mean pay attention to the relationship. Really be self-aware of what's going on, not only with you but with your partner. If you kind of, especially if they don't really communicate things that well with you, you really gotta need to pick up on body language. That's probably, if someone can't communicate verbally, they can definitely communicate body language. Like, body language is something that always shows. If the person's kind of, feeling kind of off to you and seems kind of weird, there most likely is a problem, and they may not tell it to you. I don't think you should try to, pry out of them, because that can be pretty annoying on the other person's part. Like, just imagine you're going through something and your partner keeps asking about it, and you clearly don't want to talk about it. I think in that scenario, it's better to do an activity that kind of takes your minds off things. I'll tell you right now, things that I never did. You can go on a picnic. You can go to like the museum. You can go on cool dates or whatever. Things that I wish I would have done at the time, but I never did because I was kind of a bum back then. When I say back then, this was literally like a few months ago, which is funny, but it's whatever. That's not the point. Speaking of it being a few months ago, being mature is another thing. It's pretty difficult to kind of do that, to mature while you're in a relationship, because I know, at least for me, I matured a lot post the relationship. I learned a lot after the breakup, and that really kind of inspired me to be motivated just intrinsically for myself. The faster you can mature, the better, because if you can get a firm grasp on the emotional aspects of a relationship, like communication, self-awareness, being responsible for your actions and your behavior, things like that, you gotta have a good balance of the physical and emotional aspects of a relationship. And by physical, I don't mean like sex and whatever. I mean doing things, like things that involve like real tangible things. And by that I mean, like I talked about before, going on nice dates, doing nice things, spending holidays together, having special events together. And it's not something you have to do like all the time. Just literally doing, like, just having like one really nice moment can like have a really lasting impact on the other person, because they'll think like, wow, this, like, my significant other put a lot of effort into this one moment for me. And you don't have to do it all the time. Like, do it whenever when it coincides with events like Christmas, anniversaries, Valentine's Day, birthday, things like that. You want to have memorable experiences. You don't want to be in a situation where your significant other is talking to somebody else, like a friend or family member, and that person and that friend or family member asks them, what are some nice things that you do with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and their mind is blank because you guys haven't done anything. That's why you want to establish really nice memories and things, so that you can kind of fluctuate your relationship to be really great. Then comes the emotional part, communication, making the person feel like they're loved. I think humor is really important. Being able to laugh with a person is pretty great. Being aware of their own emotional feelings, talking about it, like if they're feeling upset, if they're willing to talk about it, then definitely talk about it. Ask them, like, what's wrong, and you can kind of persist a little bit, but like if it's really obvious they don't want to talk about it, then kind of just leave it alone. It's better to just leave it alone. Just make sure you're making memories and doing nice things in reality, while at the same time paying attention to the little emotional details that can influence, the little emotional details, which basically are the backbone and foundation of the whole relationship. For me, I personally had a really firm grasp on the emotional. Like, I always made sure my partner felt loved, and I always paid attention to her problems and helped her out with that stuff. But the physical part was where I was pretty lacking. I could honestly say, like, I didn't really do much, and I could sit here and kind of come up with bullshit excuses about how, like, like I did work, and I do work, over the summer, Christmas break, spring break, things like that. Plus I go to school full time. But honestly, I'm not gonna use that as an excuse. I know I definitely could have done more in the physical aspect. I don't want to say I regret anything, but I do feel like I do wish that I could have been better in that part. Like, definitely that was where I was lacking, you know. Like, I've mentioned it before, you know, like, my physical appearance wasn't that great. I didn't take care of myself as much. We didn't do nice things, you know. We didn't do nice things as consistently as I would have. You know, we never really went out on a real date, you know. Like, I was just, I didn't really know how to, and like, it was my first girlfriend, you know. To put it pretty simply, I didn't know how to be a boyfriend in reality. And by that, I mean, I didn't know what boyfriends were supposed to do in terms of, like, making memories and having nice events. And, you know, like, I would panic a lot when it came time for, like, you know, Christmas, birthdays, Valentine's Day, because, like, my mind would be racing and I'd have no idea what to get her, because I'm not the kind of person to just give you a fucking gift card, because, like, anybody can do that. I put a lot of real thought and effort into my gifts, so, like, I would really overthink and I would stress myself out. And I had a scenario where, you know, it'd be Christmas, February. It would be December, Christmas, February, Valentine's Day, and March, her birthday. So it's kind of like back to back, and it may not seem like, oh, like, you have like weeks to prepare for, like, but really, like, you know, at the time, like, I was like, a lot of things were going on in my mind, and, you know, I just didn't kind of, not that I didn't care, but I just had other things that I would focus on. So, in the end, I would kind of leave a last minute, like, oh shit. But, you know, like, I could say, like, every occasion I did do something, except when you're on your birthday, which I kind of regret. I wish I would have done something more, but that's not the case. But that's not the point. Last couple of things I want to talk about is how to how to go about getting into a relationship, and how to go about getting out of a relationship. So I, the first part, if you know, the kind of talking stage, you want that to last for a pretty decent amount of time. I made the mistake, and I realize this now, that, like, so we were kind of like, I met her because at work we were like coworkers, and we were never really friends. And, you know, one summer, 2 summers ago, you know, we'd spent, like, you know, those 3 months just talking, and, you know, I didn't really know her that well after those 3 months. Like, I didn't really know her that well after those 3 months. After those 3 months, we just started dating. So we went from, like, not really talking, like, at all, to talking for 3 months, to just dating. And I made that mistake because, you know, I felt like really strong emotions for her at the time, and I just felt like that's something I really, like, wanted to do. And I wasn't really thinking about the consequences that come from that. And so, if you don't take adequate time getting to know somebody, which should be longer than 3 months, then you can run into the mistakes of not seeing possible qualities of the person that you may not like and may not match up well with. So I think it's important to kind of take it slow at first and not really rush into it. Because in life, you'll find a whole ton of people that you'll be infatuated with, that you think, oh my god, like, I really like them. But you really know if somebody is kind of meant for you long term wise is if you really spend a lot of time getting to know them first. Knowing when to get out of a relationship. If it's toxic, for one, like, that's, you know, a no go. Like, you should probably get out of that. But I can understand why people don't get out of it. Same reason why you would get into a relationship. You just infatuated with the person. Some other people are just, like, for some reason, just, like, really deeply in love with the person, even though they might treat them like shit, and it's pretty toxic. In my scenario, I was the one that got broken up with, but it was a bit more complicated than that. But I'm not gonna really talk about it. I'm pretty stubborn, and, you know, I wanted to, like, work things out. Like, I tried really hard to kind of work things out. But after a while, you know, I realized to myself that it was kind of pointless, because, like, I just knew it was done. And when you get to a point, that's the kind of point you want to get to. If you're going through a situation where it's kind of back and forth, and a bit more complicated than it just, we're done, that's it. So you want to get to that point where you can kind of just think to yourself, like, okay, we're done. I can move on and kind of heal myself and repair myself and be better for myself. And how you get to that point is different for everybody. You know, it definitely takes time. I think
for me, you know, just being away from the person for a certain amount of time helped. But the sooner you realize that you want to get out of a relationship and you feel like that person isn't great for them, the better, because then you know the sooner you can start that process of healing. And also, I think it's important that you tell the other person like why you want to go about it, like why you want to, you know, break up and go about that. Even if it's as simple as like, you know, I don't know, like you're just not feeling it, like at least say something. You don't want to just be like, oh, like I want to break up, and they'll be like, why? And you'll just be like, I don't know, I just want to. Like, you know, put a little bit more thought into it. Like, really kind of talk about like why, just for the other person's sake, especially if it was a long term thing. You know, you don't, if you're dating someone for like say for over a year and you just break up out of nowhere with like no explanation, that's kind of like a shitty thing to do. You should like at least explain why to them or give some sort of explanation to them. Anything really. I genuinely believe that if if two of you are committed to a relationship and you're both good for yourselves and you're both working on yourselves and you're both putting in effort not only in a relationship but yourselves as a person, it definitely, like, I can see that kind of relationship really working out. It didn't work out for me because, you know, it didn't really work out for me because, you know, I wasn't putting in 100% effort, and plus, you know, there were other external factors that were going on. There were also other external factors, but I feel like that was the kind of like the main thing for me, at least. But I can definitely say, like, if I was, you know, even if I was in the position that I am now, like how I take care of myself now, and how how I take care of myself now and how I reflect a little bit more on myself. If I was how I am now back then, maybe it could have things are really different, but I don't want to really think about that. You know, it goes back to, you know, like the questions that you have. You don't want to have those questions, asking those questions about what if this, what if that. So I don't really think about that. A good relationship will consist of two people who are happy with themselves individually and they're coming together. I was actually talking about this with somebody the other day that I know, and you know, he mentioned that the reasons, you know, why a lot of relationships fail is because people don't know how to love themselves. And I kind of agree with that, because when you really think about it, when we're growing up, we're taught by, you know, like family and friends, and just we're just taught in general that we need to learn how to love other people, like how to be a boyfriend or girlfriend, how to do this and that, but you're never really taught how to love yourself. And I feel like usually when people learn how to love themselves, it comes after something that's devastating, which is usually like, you know, the first like devastating breakup. That's when people learn how to, you know, like love themselves really. It's really rare that a person who's never been in a relationship before to really love themselves. That's why, you know, you don't see that often. You know, someone in their first relationship lasts like a really long time, because people don't really know how to be in a relationship and how to love themselves and take care of themselves, which is, you know, normal. Like, I'd say it's normal, but a good relationship will have two people who share really good qualities, and they're kind of just combining their happiness together, but separately on their own. They can, you know, function and be well off on their own, and they're just coming together because they want to share their own lives together. If any of you are in a relationship and, you know, you take something out of this, that's pretty cool. But if you're like me and you're single, like, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I feel like when you're single, you can really learn a lot about yourself, like how I am in these past few months. You know, that's all I really have to say for now. So yeah, you know, that's it for the video.